What do we know about the Dagda's harp? Well, Dagda Ivagus Fáilte. Hi, hello, and welcome. John O'Sullivan from the Irish Pagan School. And the answer, not hard to say, we actually know quite a bit about the Dagda's harp from ancient Ireland's mythology. So, if you're unaware, the Dagda is, of course, the good god of the Tuatha Dé Danann. He is the one referred to as their goodly god of druidry, not because he is good, morally good, it's because he's good at fucking everything. We see this in the run up to the second Battle of Moytura in our mythological cycle when the pending Fomorian invasion is arriving, and we have the druids, the sorcerers, the cupbearers, and all of the heroes of the Tuatha Dé Danann promising what efforts they'll bring to the battle. And then the Dagda steps up and says, "Everything you've promised, I'll take it on myself and do." At which point, Nuada says, "Yeah, that guy, he's got it. Yeah." And that's when he actually refers to him as the Dagda or the goodly god or the goodly one. So the Dagda is associated with a number of different items. The harp, of course, known to be one of the four treasures of the Tuatha Danann brought from Urias, from which no company would go unsatisfied. There is, of course, the very famous club. The rough end would take life, the gentle end would restore life. But then there is the very unique and very interesting Dor Da Blah, which is the name of the Dagda's harp. And this is his own personal harp. And Dor Da Blah translates as the Oak of Two Meadows. So we have a particular story when it talks about not just the harp, but how the Dagda uses the harp. And that follows in the aftermath of that second battle of Moytura. The conflict has been won. The main battle is over. Lu has won against Balor. Balor has fallen. Balor, the king of the Fomorians, who was leading the main assault. Alma has taken out Tethra. We've had the Morrigan's prophecies about, like, the end of times and the end of the battle, and then the future times that will be coming. Um, at which point we're then dealing with the aftermath of the war, because Ireland is not just suddenly free of harm, there is still raiders in the island. And that's when the Dagda returns home to his own home and finds he himself has been raided. And so, in order to kind of try and redress that balance, he gathers up not an entire war host, interestingly, although he could call for it. He just brings his brother Alma, champion of the Tuatha Danann, and Lu, the new young king of the Tuatha Danann. And so the three of them set off to try and trace down this raiding party who has dared to raid the Dagda's home himself. And they find them. And in this raiding party, they don't just find regular like folk who have done the raiding, it's actually Bress. It is the deposed failed king, former king, who kind of kicked off this entire event or kicked off the entire invasion of the Fomorians. It's Bress and his father Alotha who are sitting in this hall with the raiders, gathered around with all of the booty they have stolen from everyone else. And so into this moment comes the Dagda. And he doesn't come in with kind of thunder and, like, declarations of death and harm and conflict. He literally just walks into the space. And so it then describes the harp. And so it says that this harp, called Dor Blah, it is also referred to by another name, which is where things get confusing, because it says that the raiders stole Uthne, Uaithne, and it said that that's the Dagda's harper. So it's not the name of the harp. The harp's name itself is Dor Blah, but there is one other name for it as well, which we will come to what he does with it a little later on. So he steps into this moment, and all of the piles of treasure around the place, and it's a full-on war host. It's not just a casual bunch of guys who have been off raiding. This is Bress and Alotha and their particular section of the war host. Now, whether they hadn't actually been at the main battle that had taken place previously, or had they slipped away, that's not clarified in the story. But we do know that the Dagda steps into it, and stashed up upon the wall is his own harp. And it says that he had bound the music within it so that no hand other than his could call it forth. And so in that moment, the Dagda arrives, the harp is on the wall, all the Fomorians step up to kind of pick the fight really with him, and all he does is he lifts his hand. And the harp leaps off the wall, flies across the room in a flash into the Dagda's hands. And when everyone kind of blinks, they then see that not only is the harp leapt to his hand, but it's also struck down 9 warriors that were attempting to harm the Dagda. And Then the Dagda does one of the most surprising things, but maybe not so surprising when we know he is the good god, good at everything. He plays music. But he doesn't just play any music. He plays the three things by which a harper is known. And this is the specific wording on it because anyone could play a musical instrument, anyone can kind of pick it up and give it a bash. But in order to be recognized for your skill, recognized for your talent, you need to be able to perform the three things by which a harper is known. We've seen this feat done by other people, by actually specifically Lou when he arrives into Tara to kind of earn his seat as the king, the young king of the Tuatha Danann. But the Dagda just begins to play. He begins to play the music, and the first strain of music he plays is known as the Gantre, which is the joyful strain. So this music begins to fill the hall, and everyone in it, though they be enemies, are moved to revel, to dance, to leap upon the tables, to jig, and to joyfully move around, to just move their bodies into the music. And then like begins to change the music. And he moves it to the second strain, which is known as the Gultre. And the Gultre is known as the wailing strain. And so he changes and moves the mood of the music so that everyone kind of becomes settled and saddened, and they allow their grief to come upon them, and everyone wails, they cry, they mourn, and they go through this entire process of grieving with the music. And then he moves it to the final strain, which is known as the Suntre. And in the Suntre, it is this lulling, subtle, soft music that puts everyone in the hall to sleep. And so in this act, the Dagda has reclaimed his harp, and in a hall full of enemies, it doesn't turn to bloodshed, it doesn't turn to murder, because he has the champion of the Tuatha Danann, like the strongest member of the Tuatha Danann with him, Oma. He has the most talented of the Eel Donach. He have many interlinked talents, Lou, with him. But he doesn't turn into a bloodbath. He just plays the music and allows for the emotional release of joy, sorrow, and then rest. And so, as all of the Fomorians kind of settle and slumber on their tables, the Dagda just takes up his property and he goes home. So, there's one other thing that we have to talk about when we talk about the Dagda's harp. Now, whether the harp itself has the music, we know that the music is bound. All music is bound inside the harp, that only the Dagda's hand can bring it forth. But the three strains of music are not unique to the Dagda's harp. We've seen Lou play that. We've seen other members to be recognized as the harper. And even within the legal kind of structures, in order to have your recognition acknowledged for your status as a harper within society, you have to be able to form these three strains. So that's not the magic of the harp. But there's one other thing that the Dagda does with the harp, and that's where it gets its other name. It is called Ker Car Core, or the rightness of four angles. And it is said that when the Dagda plays on Kerkahar core, on the rightness of four angles, it is that act that moves the seasons through their right and just cycle. I find this part fascinating that, we know the Dagda from other stories, from when he got his magic club. He has authority over sun and moon, over land and sea, pretty much all of the forms of creation and physicality, the rotation of season, all of that is under his authority. And how does he use that? How does he move that cycle along? With music, which is interesting as well, because at the end of the second battle of Moitura, Bress, of course, is captured, and he offers, in order to preserve his life, knowledge to have four harvests every year of agriculture. He offers knowledge of agriculture, that there would be four harvests, that there would be a harvest every single season, as opposed to one harvest in a season and in the cycles. And so Lou kind of doesn't go with that because he realizes that it is a corruption or a twisting of what is the natural order. There needs to be downtime. There needs to be times for growth. There needs to be time for rest. And so they don't accept this twisting or perversion of the season to have four harvests every year. Instead, they stick with what is the proper and healthy cycle, or the core, the rightness of four-angled music moved by the Dagda. So, if you would like to know more about the Dagda, all you got to do is go to the Irish Pagan School and search Dagda. I have classes on the Dagda's tools there. I have classes on the Dagda himself, Dagda magic, Dagda's children, fun facts about the Dagda or misunderstood facts about the Dagda. There's a lot of kind of courses and classes there because He's a good god to know. He's literally the good god to know. And I'm an advocate for him. I work for him. I refer to myself as the Dagda Bard. If you can't take any of the classes, then pick up our free resources. There's Dagda, the domestic deity, is a free class there, or go to irishpagan.school/free and gather pretty much a year's worth of free resources if you were to do something on your Irish paganism once a week. So, thank you very much for being with us here. We greatly appreciate you being part of our tour, part of our community. Look after yourself, and until next time, slán. Goodbye.